Welcome back to the Rock Your Best Life podcast. With me today, I have the lovely Donna Green, known over on Instagram as women.hunter.carnivore. And I have loved watching your journey, Donna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. I love your bright red hair and I just love your enthusiasm for life.
Thank you.
So how did you come upon the carnivore diet and how has it been instrumental in your healing process?
So I was so back in 2020, after I had cancer and adrenal insufficiency, I was doing a really plant heavy ketogenic diet on the recommendations of my oncologist. And I finally just kind of got fed up with feeling awful all the time. I couldn't lose weight. I was on 21 medications, it was awful. So I just started Googling, like, where do you go from keto? What's next? How do you progress? And I came upon Paul Saladino and his book, The Carnivore
Mhm.
Code and the Carnivore Diet. And so I bought it and, I thought, "Wow, I don't like vegetables anyway." I was, like, forcing myself to eat vegetables every day, like 8 cups of vegetables.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was awful. So I'm like, "How about if I just, cut the vegetables out and give this a try?" So, I did that. Immediately, I started having, like, better gut health. It seemed like I wasn't bloated all the time. I had, from radiation treatment, I had autoimmune eczema and I had adrenal insufficiency, so I was fatigued all the time anyway, and all of a sudden, I started noticing I had a little bit more energy. I'm like, "Wow, there must be something to this." So I emailed him and I asked him, like, "What do I eat? What about your supplements?" He sent me back this big, long email on how to eat, what to do, and I just dove in. That was on August 6th, 2020. I just dove in. One day I was eating plants and sugar and artificial sweeteners, and the next day I was a carnivore.
Wow.
And I just have gotten better and better and better since then. Um, I am off all my medications. I healed the radiation site from my first cancer. I healed an additional sarcoma after that came. I managed to shrink that. I went double down on carnivore and cut out a bunch of other stuff. So it was just like basically meat and water. And I started working with Danny Conway a little bit with my gut health, and I managed to heal adrenal insufficiency. And so everything has just started to just fall away, over 2 years. I've been a carnivore 2 years now, and everything has just kind of fell away. The autoimmune eczema is gone, the cancer is gone, the fatigue is gone, the GERD is gone. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I've had so many things wrong with me because of um, cancer treatment and everything that the carnivore way has just really helped me heal everything. It's amazing. I don't know where I would be without carnivore. I don't even think I would be alive really without carnivore. I feel like I was knocking on death's door and Google sent me Google
Yeah.
sent me this miracle cure, and now this is what I do every day. Never cheat, never go off, don't feel restricted. I'm in I am in for life.
That is amazing, Donna. I love it. Yeah, it can be so healing for so many different things, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a healing modality, it's a healing diet. Um,
Yes.
and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is that it doesn't matter what your ailment is, or if you where you come from. It's a healing way of life.
It is. And when I started, I was really I really I think when I first started it, I thought that if I could I was looking for a way to lose weight, and I
Mhm.
thought if I could just when I first started, I thought, "Well, I'll eat meat, I'll lose weight, and I'll get better."
Mhm.
And after a couple of months, I was like, I'm not losing any weight, but I'm getting better. I don't get this because I always thought that everything that was wrong with me definitely had to do with my weight, didn't have anything to do with all this other stuff. And so as I got into the carnivore diet, I joined a couple of other groups. Like I joined the Steak and Butter Gang. I joined Amy's Carnivore Angels, and I started like listening to podcasts, and Bella always had like special guests and things like that. And I
Mhm.
started to realize that my illnesses had nothing to do with how much I weighed and everything to do with my gut health and just my immune system. You
Yes.
know, everything I went through radiation treatment, and I got this autoimmune eczema that was awful, and I just
Mhm.
thought, well, if I'll lose weight, that'll go away. And I just was on so much medication, and I think so. I've been a carnivore over 2 years now, and I've lost like 24 pounds total. But
Okay.
I've lost like a ton of inches. I've lost probably 46 or 47 body inches by now.
Wow.
And now I'm exercising and everything. But I just I had so many stomach issues, and like I couldn't sleep at night. I'd be up like 2 or 3 times a night taking Tums because I just had this awful heartburn.
Yeah.
And that went away, within the first month. I stopped having diarrhea all the time. I stopped having GERD. I stopped the heartburn. My
Mhm.
stomach didn't hurt all the time. I didn't feel nauseated all the time. Um, and then things just got better from there. And it was funny because there was a few times during like my first year where people were like, "Well, you're not losing any weight." And I'm like, "No, I'm not, but I feel so much better." Like, I
Yeah.
don't care if I never lose another pound, I everything was getting better, and I just kept dropping, like, one medication at a time, would go away. And I was on statins when I first started, and I realized that, all of my hormone health had to do with my LDL levels, which were
Oh.
so low.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
as soon as I went off the statin, that went up and a bunch of more things would heal. And then I'd
Oh,
watch
that's amazing.
it was so weird. And then I would watch like I would listen to another expert, and I would be like, "Oh, I do that. Well, maybe if I stop doing that, I'll lose a little bit of weight." And I would stop doing it and I wouldn't lose weight, but then I would get like another 2 months of amazing healing. Um, the funniest healing story that I had was, this is so funny. So when I got adrenal insufficiency and then I went through cancer treatment, the hair on my legs stopped growing.
Oh,
And the hair on my head,
okay.
I kind of started losing a little bit, but it was thinning a little, but it wasn't growing a lot, but it stayed. But I lost all my body hair.
Oh, wow. That's
So
weird.
it was very weird. But who wants to shave every day, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
we'll deal with that. About, I think it was probably 9 months in, all of a sudden, my granddaughter's sitting on my lap, and she's rubbing my leg, and she's like, "Grandma, you need to shave." And I was
Oh,
like, "What?" And I reached down and I rubbed my leg, and I have like the beginnings of this stubble, and I'm like, "What is going on here?" And I realized that I had gone off statins, that I had gone off some other medication, and now my body hair was growing again. So I had to run out to the
oh.
store the next day and buy a razor because I didn't even have a razor in the house because I hadn't shaved my legs in almost 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
So all of a
Wow.
sudden my body hair started growing, the hair on my head started growing. You've never seen anybody so excited to shave her legs in your life. I was like, "Yes!"
Yeah, I know.
It was such a sign of healing that I
Yes.
actually, had body hair to shave off. It was amazing. It was amazing. I wouldn't trade this in for anything. And now I'm constantly people tell me I have heartburn all the time. I'm like, "Go carnivore." I've got this
Yeah.
issue. I'm like, "Go carnivore."
Yes.
I'm
I know.
constantly telling people that.
Yeah, I have the same issues with gut health and heartburn and, all that stuff. And yeah, it's amazing how when you just take out those certain foods and you start eating a nutrient dense diet, the shifts that happen.
Yeah, and with the healing, and I always worried too that like I would be hungry. I'm never hungry. Never am I hungry. And I think I didn't. One of the worst things about the keto diet when I was doing it with all the vegetables was I would eat and this happened when I was still standard American diet. I would eat and I would go upstairs and I would start doing something and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm hungry." And I would go back
Yeah.
downstairs and I'd stand in front of the refrigerator and I'd be like, "How can you possibly be hungry? You just ate this big meal." And then I would eat again and I still wouldn't be I still would be hungry, but I would be so full, I would be sick. And so now,
Yeah.
not only have I healed, but I've healed like my ability to tell when I'm really hungry. Now I know when I'm hungry, I'm really hungry. And when I eat such nutrient dense food that I eat it and I'm done. And food is no longer a team sport or entertainment for me. I eat
Yeah.
because I need the nutrition and then I move on with my day. I've gained so much time in my day by just eating meat because I'm not cooking a 5-course meal with dessert and vegetables and all these sides. I cook meat, I eat it, I'm done. I'm out of the kitchen. I'm not spending hours in the kitchen cooking, or trying to figure out what I'm going to eat. Like, how am I going to eat? And what about my calories? I just eat. I'm done. The food freedom is amazing with
Yeah.
carnivore.
I know.
Just,
I found that, like, when I was doing keto, that I was always in the kitchen and I was always trying to make the fat bombs and
yeah.
and
Oh,
I
I
was
got hooked on those suckers.
oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And if you have a sweet tooth, even though, you're making these fat bombs with, you know, um different sources of sugar, I guess, like the artificial sweeteners. Um, to me, it's just as addicting, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I think the brain, and the body view the artificial sweeteners kind of the same way. For
Mhm.
me at least, I reacted the same way to artificial sweeteners that I reacted to regular sugar.
Yeah.
And even now, I think I have like one thing that has stevia in it, and that's the equip protein.
Yeah.
Um, but and that's probably the only thing I don't react to anymore. But I think that has more to do with healing the gut health than anything else. But my body would react the same way, and I was so insulin resistant. Even when I
Mhm.
switched from sugar over to artificial sweetener for keto, I it's still my body was still doing the same thing, still reacting the same way. I was just getting sicker and sicker, and my even my endocrinologist, she was like, "Yeah, keto's great for you, do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not getting any better. Like I'm getting worse." And when
Yeah.
I talked to her about carnivore, she was like, "Absolutely not. All this red meat, you're going to have heart disease and blah blah blah." And my cholesterol went up, but with my cholesterol going up, my brain health got better,
Yes.
which I thought was super amazing. I used to grapple for words. I would be having a conversation and I'd be like, that thing, and I'd be like making a picture with my finger.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore. I can talk. I can think. I don't have brain fog. I get up. I used to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning before I got sick. I could get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My husband and I are turkey hunters, and so super early in the morning that you get up. I would
Yeah.
get up, get my clothes on, go turkey hunting. After I got sick, I couldn't I could not turkey hunt in the morning. He would get up and go out and I would sleep till 6 or 7 and then he would come back and get me and I would go out. And then even when I got to the point where I was on carnivore for a few months and that got better, I still had a lot of brain fog in the morning when I got up. It wasn't until I cut out all the artificial sweeteners and I just said enough and I got off the statins that my brain health got good enough that now I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm just as articulate, awake and alert at 4 a.m. as I am at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which is
Wow.
amazing. I mean, I love it.
That is how we should be, right?
Exactly.
We're meant to live our
Exactly.
best lives. We're not meant to wake up feeling pain and fogginess. Um,
Exactly.
and we just have learned to accept that, and we blame it on age, but really it's not
Yeah,
the age.
and that's true. When I got cancer, my doctor, when I talked to my oncologist, he was like, it's like when my second tumor came back, he's like, all right, I'm gonna, write you another prescription. You come back in, we'll do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this again. And he's like, Donna, this is how it's gonna be. And
Mhm.
he's like, you're 55 years old, or well, then I was like 53 years old. And he's like, you're in your 50s now. Well, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, you know what? This cannot be my life. This
No.
cannot be my life. And I just said to him, I remember the day I told him, I was still eating some dairy, and I think I was still had a little bit of artificial sweetener in my diet back then. And I was still on the steak and butter gang. And I asked, I said, what do you guys think? And they were like, meat, water, and let's see what happens. And so I did that: meat, water, basically the lion diet.
Uh-huh.
And 3 months, I went back in for my next scan. I have to spend 2 hours in the MRI machine every time I have to get these scans.
Oh
I got the
gosh.
first one, it was gone. He
Yeah.
called me like 3 days later and said, hey, I need you to come back and do this again. And I was like, what? So I had to go back,
Oh
spend 2 more
gosh.
hours, yeah, in the MRI machine. And he's like, we can't find it anywhere. And I said, that is the power of carnivore.
Oh my
That is what the
gosh, that is
carnivore
so
diet has done for me.
exciting.
And
Wow.
I feel better now. I mean, I'm 55 years old now. I feel better now than I did when I was 25. I
Yes.
wish I had known about this back then. I think I
Oh.
was a single mom. Raising my kid would have been
Mhm.
so much easier had I known about carnivore.
Yes, I know. I think about this all the time because I'm very passionate about cancer prevention, and that's kind of a big reason I started my health journey when my body started doing all these strange things, because I have my grandma I lost. She was about, I think she was 52 or 53, to cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then it just runs in my family, mainly with the women. Um, and so I always think, like, what if we had known all these things, we could have helped, could have helped my
Right,
grandma. I mean, she was only like 52, and
right.
that's way too young.
They never ask you, they never, and all the times I've been to the doctor, they never ask you what you're eating. They never try to get to the root cause. They never try to evaluate your diet or anything like that. Everybody thinks vegetables, you're not eating enough leafy greens. Oh, when I when I had cancer treatment, they had me on 8 cups of spinach a day.
No,
And
ow.
I would just
That
be
makes me hurt.
so sick. I would just that amount of fiber alone just tore up my stomach.
Yeah.
And they're like, you'll start to lose weight. And I'm like, when? I'm eating 8 cups of this, and I had to force myself to eat that much vegetable every day. It was awful. And I would feel so stuffed
Mhm.
that I would be in pain.
Yes.
And now I eat meat, and, yeah, I only eat probably 4 ounces of meat twice a day, and then the rest of it is fat. And I'm fine. My bowels are fine. My stomach is fine. I never feel overstuffed. I never feel nauseated, sick to my stomach. I just love that. And people ask me all the time, was this hard? Um, don't you miss other foods? Don't you
Mhm.
feel deprived? And I never do. It For me, it wasn't really, I don't really consider it hard, because for me, I started because I felt like I was literally dying
Yeah.
and I wanted to live. So my why was like a life and death thing.
Yeah.
And then while I'm doing it, I don't feel deprived. I go to dinner. I just went out with the family about 3 months ago. We went to Red Lobster for one of the grandkids' 24th birthday. and I just talked to the waitress and to the chef, and they brought me like loads of shrimp,
Oh, nice.
just like barbecued, and I just soaked it in butter and I ate. I didn't feel like and people looked and stared and whatever, and I was like, if they ask, I'll tell them, and if they don't, oh well, they don't know my story, so stare all you want.
Yes, I you know what? We go out, me and my husband, we go out to nice restaurants all the time, and it's so funny because the first thing he says is, "She just eats the meat," which I'm okay with.
Exactly.
But yeah, I get people like staring at me when I'm just eating my 2 burger patties. We go out every Friday night to a Mexican restaurant, and I just have my 2 burger patties.
Yeah,
They know my order. They give it to
right.
me, and
And most places, I know some people are like, most places that I go to, the chef is really actually, or whoever's cooking is actually pretty understanding. I kind of couch it in the I'm allergic to seed oils and things like that.
Mhm.
I went to a steakhouse and they cleaned off a part of the grill for me and
Wow.
cooked my steak in butter so that I didn't have that problem. And now when I go there, I call ahead of time to let them know I'm coming.
That's
And
amazing.
they were amazing to work with me. It's not, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal.
It
You
is
just have to
not.
ask.
I think that a lot of people just, make a bigger deal out of it.
Right.
Especially like I am over 3 years sober from alcohol. And that was the first thing I didn't make a big deal out of it, of not drinking, but I found that when I didn't make a big deal, nobody else even cared, you
Right.
know?
Right, exactly, and congratulations for that. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I think that when you just go and act, I, you know, normal, I guess is a
Yeah.
good word for it. Nobody really cares what you're doing. I think I get more issues from my family actually than I get from other people. Other people are like, "Wow, I could never do that. That's awesome,"
Yeah.
things like that. But my family, they usually have a few other things to say. But I
Yeah.
don't usually answer questions about it. I'm just like, "Hey, this is what I eat and I do it for my health." And most people are like, "Oh, okay, well, all right." And they don't say anything.
Well,
And I don't think it's hard.
no, it was harder for me when I first started just low carb in like 2015. It wasn't as prominent now as it is. Like now you
Mhm.
can go out to a restaurant and get low carb everything.
Right. Right.
Um, but so it seems like it's more accepted now and it's easier now um to do. But yeah, like you said, people ask me and I tell them, I can't eat all these vegetables because I have gut
Right.
issues.
Yeah.
I react.
Right. And I think that, I actually think that keto was much harder for me. When I was doing that, my husband would take me out or he would bring, takeout home, and that for me was much harder than carnivore. Finding something keto to eat at a restaurant was much harder for me. I
Yeah.
never really knew exactly what I was getting, and that was hard for me. But with carnivore, I'm like, I need a steak, cook it in butter. Please don't burn it. Just, throw it on there, boom, boom, and bring it to me because I eat most of my meat fairly rare.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that is way easier than the other. And now, since I started carnivore, I mean, I'm hardly ever at the doctor's office. I hardly ever, I mean, even amazingly enough, I just went and got an eye exam and I had the beginnings of macular degeneration. And it's
Mhm.
kind of been stable, but it's been there. I went for my eye exam this year and it's gone,
Oh my gosh.
completely gone. And my
Oh.
astigmatism is almost gone. And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, I have no idea, but you had a very bad astigmatism the last time we saw you, which is why I stayed in glasses. And this time it's almost gone. It's like barely there, so I was able to go into contacts." But
Wow.
I mean, I'm still finding the healing, like it's still coming.
Yeah.
I'm still getting it. Um and I even eat lower protein now and higher fat, so
Yeah.
I'm back to like it's like a brand new healing state again, so I'm back to that. Um, yeah, I wouldn't trade this for the world. I I owe everything to changing my diet. I just don't even know where I would be. And even um my husband's not a carnivore. He's not going to do that. But even
Yeah.
he is amazed, he was worried. He says, I thought I was gonna lose you. And he goes, I never thought we would be able to hunt again. I didn't think that we were gonna be able to really do a lot of traveling. I mean, we would do traveling. I would spend a lot of time in our RV because I would just be too tired. And
Mhm.
I would be napping, or I'd be out on on the lounge chair napping because I was just too tired. And after I worked with Danny, I used I used supplements, plant supplements for supporting my system while my adrenals healed. And I don't think we ever thought we would get there. I remember talking to my endocrinologist about it, and she's like, I don't remember giving you permission to go down on your steroids. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't remember asking for
Oh,
permission. But yeah,
yeah.
I've been going down on my steroids for 6 months and now I'm good. And she's like, well, we'll see. And then she took the blood test and she's like, oh my God, you don't have adrenal insufficiency anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Oh my god.
Got it.
That's
And
amazing, Donna. Way to be an advocate for your own body and your
yeah,
own
I
health.
think you have to. If you don't advocate for yourself, I mean, they're not going to advocate for you. Every time I had, you know, during my adrenal issues and my cancer issues, every time I had a symptom, I ended up on a new medication. And finally, I was on 21 medications and 10 creams,
Wow.
every day. And I was like, they're not going to help me get off this medication. They're not interested in, finding out what's wrong with me. I'm like, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it, because they were like, you're going to be on steroids forever. And she talked about the fact that I would be on steroids and all of the bad things that steroids caused. And I'm like, well,
Mhm.
what happens when that happens? And she goes, well, we'll put you on a new medication. And I was like, oh, great.
Oh god.
That's
Yeah,
what I need.
that's usually the answer is a medication for the medication for the medication for
Right.
the 20 medications
Right.
later.
Exactly. And so I just was like, I can't live like this. I can't do this. And I was really amazed. I think when I first started carnivore, I really kind of thought, I saw the studies, I read the books and everything, and I was like, wow, this sounds a little bit too good to be true. And then I
Mhm.
bought I think it was Ben Bickman's book, Why We Get Sick, and
Yes.
that really opened my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the beginning. This is what I need to do. And so I just slowly transitioned into like deeper and deeper carnivore, taking things out and tweaking the way things were. And every time I did it, I got better. Every time I thought, okay, I'm going to do this and this is BS. I know this isn't going to work. I would do it and I would get better. And I mean, I think when people ask me about it, I'm just like, what do you have to lose? Nothing. The worst thing that is going to happen is you're going to stay where you are right now. That's the worst thing that'll happen if you try carnivore. The best thing that'll happen is in 2 weeks, you're going to feel a little bit better.
Mhm.
And I encourage people, I coach for Rivero, so I encourage people to like write things down. I have this non-scale victory list that is 75 long now.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and I write
amazing.
down everything. I write it all down. Like I had a ganglion cyst on my foot, it's gone. I had this weird lump on my hand, it's gone. You know,
Mhm.
every new healing thing that I get, I write down, so that I can remember when it gets a little tough or when I feel like I'm not getting better, I can look back and go, yeah, but look at all you've gained. Slow your roll, keep going, you'll be fine. And then sure enough, I keep going and I'll be fine. And now I'm back in balance with working with Danny. My gut and everything is back in balance. I lose probably a couple pounds a month. So I'm getting, I'm slowly losing, and I'm back at the gyms and exercising, something that the endocrinologist told me I'd never be able to do. I go to the gym every day, lift weights every
Nice.
day, and I'm getting
Wow.
better. So all around getting better. I can't sing carnivore praises enough, honestly. Can't do
And
it.
how has it helped like other areas of your life? Would you say like it's helped with any relationships or with, being able to play with the grandkids or
Yeah. Yeah, I've got three little grandkids. My relationship with my husband is better. Our sex life is way better than it's ever been. Um,
nice.
yeah, I mean, that's a plus.
Yeah.
My patience for people is much better. I don't feel so hot-headed. There isn't anything I can't do with my grandkids. Like, they want to go out and run around the park, I'm right there running around the park. And when they're ready to take a nap, grandma is still running around the park.
Yeah.
Um, and I just feel like I ha- I have the energy every day to do whatever comes. Doesn't matter what comes, I can do it. It doesn't matter. I have the energy. So I'm never having when I had adrenal insufficiency, I used to live by the spoon theory. Like, I had 10 spoons, took 2 spoons to get up and get dressed. It took 1 spoon to do the cooking for the day, 2 spoons for the grandkids, 1 spoon for this, and then when the spoons were gone, the spoons were gone. I have unlimited spoons. I have enough
Nice.
spoons in my day to do whatever you need done. And I think my ability to deal with stress is a little bit better. I try to limit, the stress in my life and really work on that. Right now, we've got a few family things going on, but I think that my ability to handle the stress and still sleep good and feel good in the morning is good. I remember a time when life would get stressful and my sleep would suffer, and then everything else would suffer. And now the stress comes, I eat well enough that I still sleep well, and I might have worry, but the stress doesn't affect me like it used to. So I think every aspect of my life is better. Relationships, grandkids, work. I mean, I retired after I got done with cancer treatment. I had to retire because medically physically, I couldn't do my job and live my life. Um, I could do one or I could do the other. And so I retired so I could live my life. My husband is a little older than I am, so I wanted to make sure I could live my life with him. And now I feel like I don't have to go back to work, but if I needed to, it would be no problem. I could go back to work a full-time job, and still live my life just like I live it now, which means everything to me. I mean, that's everything.
No, that is everything. I mean, that's how we should all strive to be, right?
Exactly.
We should be
Exactly.
able to work until I think we should be able to do things, well into our 80s or 90s. Um,
Exactly.
and just, ancestrally, I think that we did, worked
Yeah.
hard, we ate good, we hunted, we rose with the sun. We weren't meant to be having all these chronic issues like in our 30s or 40s, you know.
Yeah, and I think ancestrally, what used to kill man early on in life was disease, like the flu,
Uh-huh.
colds,
Yeah.
infections, things like that. And now what's killing us has nothing to do with the outside sources. It has to do with everything we put in our mouth. Like,
Yeah.
we're dying of diseases that could be prevented, whereas in the 1900s or the 1800s, you cut yourself, they didn't have antibiotics, you might die of that, or an animal attack, or the flu, or some weird disease like that, COVID or whatever. And
Yeah.
now we're dying, and because then they didn't have the medication or the medical knowledge to live. So maybe they didn't live to be that old, but it wasn't food that killed them. Now
Mhm.
we're dying because we're eating, and we are self-inflicting chronic disease that we could definitely prevent in this day and age. I mean, we're in the 21st century and look at us. We are dying in record numbers of chronic diseases that could be prevented. That's awful. That is just awful.
Well, I know, and I think cancer and then heart disease, those are like the two big ones that are just killing so many people. And even just 50 years ago, it was like rare, right?
Yeah, right.
Cancer was rare, especially heart disease. That was very rare. And now it's common.
Yeah, and everybody thinks it's fat, it's you're eating fat, you're eating this, you're eating that, and it has nothing to do with that. It's all this processed junk food that you eat, um, sugar and, you know, bread and things like that. I mean, I remember when my grandparents were young, they ate bread, but it was bread cooked at home.
Yeah.
The bread was okay back then. There wasn't sugar in it. It was homemade with, flour, wheat, whatever that was grown on their property. Um, that wasn't a GMO, didn't have bromides in it and all the things that are in bread and stuff now. I mean,
Yeah.
there isn't anything out there. You can't even make homemade bread now because the flour that you get is awful.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, what they used to eat back then compared to what we eat now. I mean, my grandfather ate bacon and eggs every day. When he was young, his mother made bread and they had a sandwich in the afternoon and then they
Mhm.
ate meat. So they had like one serving of bread, everything else was meat. Um, they didn't grow vegetables on their farm, so all they had was like eggs, meat, bread, cheese that they made there. That's it. That's all they had.
Yeah.
Um, and he lived to be 80 something. Um, and he didn't have like clogged arteries and all that stuff. Whereas my parents and I think, my kids, they're eating and they're having issues because they're eating sugar and processed food. To them, a good meal is, buy a salad, stick some tomatoes and stuff in it, and then buy some like, weird meat, chop it up, put it in there, and then
Yeah.
drown it in a salad dressing that it has more sugar in it than a box of cereal.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then they wonder why they don't feel good. So yeah. I have yet to convince any of my children to go carnivore. I did convince my 8-year-old granddaughter, and she did it for a little while, and she does eat more carnivore. I even talked her into eating raw liver
Oh,
in a
wow.
Equip protein shake, and that's what I was
Oh.
gonna have her drink in the morning, and then I can't remember, one of her sisters tried it and gave her the uck face, and now she won't
Oh.
drink it.
Yes, we're influenced by
So
our siblings.
right, and I think when she was going to school, I think they gave her kind of a hard time, but yeah, I mean, it's awful. It's awful. I mean, look at what they feed them on the school lunch line. I just
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
wanna sit them all down and give them a nutrition, update, you
I
know?
know, my son, thankfully, he's older now, he's 14, and he's seen my struggles. And then, for a long time, I was, trying to make him go more keto for his ADHD.
Oh, okay.
But it was always a battle. And I
Right.
always had to make, certain things for him. And now it's more of a balance where he eats a lot of meat. But he does once in a while, he likes like the sandwiches and the bread and
Right.
um but that's all we can do for our kids is we can just lead by example
Right.
and
They'll
and we
change
can
or they
try and
won't.
educate.
I tell my son, he always talks about how expensive his grocery bill is with the 3 girls. That is another area that carnivore really helped. My grocery bill is $400 less a month. Um, it's not Our grocery bill is so low now. I just can't even believe it, how low the grocery bill is.
Well, and I think that that's a big misconception that people think,
Mhm.
well, meat's expensive. Well, yeah, it is expensive right now.
Right.
Um, but when you think about the fact that you don't need as much,
And
when
you
you
don't buy all the other things to go with it.
mhm,
Yeah, and like you
yeah.
said, I mean, I cooked like 5 pounds of hamburger last week, and because I'm only eating like maybe 5 ounces of it every day, I still have hamburger left.
Oh, yeah, I still and, you know, because 'cause I've been experimenting with the lower protein and the higher fat, and now it's like I have all this meat because I'm not eating, you know, as much meat, but I'm
Right.
actually, like, finding that I'm fuller with the
Yeah.
more fat.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too. So, yeah, whenever somebody tells me about the meat and I don't buy so I'm one of these people, I mean, I hunt, and so my husband and I have game meat, but I don't buy grass-fed meat either.
Yeah,
I don't buy grain-fed, grain-finished meat, but I buy grass-fed, grain-finished meat. I buy it from the grocery store. I don't buy special, like I had, there's all these meat chain companies now. I think there's a misconception that people feel like you have to buy from those box meat companies that send you
yeah,
all the stuff. And I do know carnivores who can afford to do that and do that. But I don't have histamine issues. I don't have all those issues, so I don't buy all that meat. I just don't. I just go to Fry's or I go to Costco or I go wherever and I buy the meat that's there and I thrive on that. So when people talk to me about like how expensive it is, I'm like, buy what you can afford. You know,
exactly.
if for a few months all you can afford is ground beef and all beef hot dogs, hey, that is 1,000% better than buying a box of hamburger helper and cooking up your hamburger with it. You know,
Exactly, yeah.
that's better than anything. You wanna have all beef hot dogs in the morning for breakfast? By all means, go ahead and do it because that is gonna be better than for you than that box of Cocoa Puffs that you keep in your pantry,
Yeah,
so
exactly. I mean, I think people get too caught up in the perfection of it. Like, it
right,
doesn't have to be perfect and all the nuances, you know,
right,
electrolytes and all this, you know, while it is important to listen to your body and if you do
right.
need that stuff, but you don't have to. Like, you don't
No,
have to buy the certain brand.
no.
You don't
Yeah,
have
and
to buy the certain cut, you
right,
know.
you buy what you can afford, and and personally, I don't even like grass-fed, grass-finished beef. I taste it, and for me, it tastes really weird, so I don't
Oh,
really
okay.
like it. So I don't really eat it. I mean, I eat game meat, but that's about as grass-fed, grass-finished as you get. But that's about all the grass-finished meat that I eat is, game meat. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I needed electrolytes for a long time when I first started carnivore, and now I don't need it as much, so I don't use it
Yeah,
as much. Um, yeah, I feel like you just have to listen to what you need, what your body says. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the whole Instagram thing and the
mhm,
influencers, and they're looking online and they're like, well, this is what that person does and this is how this person does it. And I'm like, yeah, but the problem is that you're only seeing what they allow you to see. And you don't know what their income level is or what their family situation is. So you just need to figure out what to do in your income level and your family situation and make the best of what you have and stop worrying about what everybody else is doing, because what they're doing works for them. I have clients that are like, "Just tell me what you eat and I'll eat that."
oh,
And I'm
no.
like, "Why? I'm a Donivore, you're a Kellivore
Oh,
or
I
you're
love
a
that.
Donvore. And why would you eat what a Donivore eats? Because that's not who you are. That's not what you are. So you need to figure out like what you can eat and what you can do.
Yeah,
Carnivore, my carnivore doesn't look like anybody else's, and theirs probably doesn't look like mine. I think very few of us are. Every time I talk to a carnivore about what they eat, we all eat something slightly different. We're not all the same. And I think that's super important to know that we're not all the same. That the best thing you can do for yourself is just cut out everything, dive in, do it, give it 90 days, and tweak it along the way and make it your own so that you feel the best you can feel every single day.
I love that, I love that. Well, that is the perfect place to end on today, Donna.
It was so nice talking to you. I feel so honored that you asked me.
Well, of course, I've been watching your story for a while now, and I've seen you in the carnivore communities that I'm in. And you're just so like inspiring, and I just love your bright red hair, and you're just a spitfire.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you add a lot of knowledge, to the communities you're in, and a lot of inspiration, motivation, you
I
know,
appreciate that.
um
I
pos-
try. That's the only reason I
positivity.
started. Yeah, I only started my Instagram and stuff just so I could hopefully like give other people in my situation some hope.
Yeah.
I felt like people need it when you're sick, you need hope, and this really provided that for me, and I was hoping that I could provide that for somebody else. So, if that helped you or anybody else, boom, I am so happy for that.
Yes, yes. Well, you show people that it is possible to heal. I mean, especially cancer. That is something that is really hard on your body. Especially
Yeah,
those treatments, you know.
yeah,
And so just showing people that it can be done, and it gives people hope. So,
good deal.
and where can people reach you, work with you if they want your help with coaching?
So if you want to see more about my story, you can see me at Instagram. It's at woman.hunter.carnivore. If you want to see more about my story or you want to hire me, you can go to www.carnivorequest.com. There's a link on there for my Rivero coaching. I still coach with Rivero. So if you want a little bit of help, I can give it to you there. Otherwise, I answer questions. People can direct message me on Instagram. I answer every question that comes my way if I can. I turn down all marriage proposals, but I do answer all questions. All questions.
Yes, yes, because you're already
So
taken, of
I'm
course.
already taken, yeah, but I get at least one marriage proposal a week. I'm like, "Oh
Do
my
you
gosh,"
really?
yes, it is
Wow.
amazing the kind of things that come through my Instagram, but if you need help or you have a question about something, um, yeah, they can ask me there.
Okay,
So,
awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Donna.
no
And
problem. Thanks for having
I
me.
will see you in the community.
Yes, have a great day.
You too.